Hello, everyone. I'm Megan Thomas, and I'm joined today on Babble by Sarah Wragg. Sarah is a scriptwriter, screenwriter, speechwriter, blogger, novelist, poet. Basically, Sarah's a bit of a wordsmith. Her debut poetry collection, Ghost Walk, which is published by the wonderful Hedgehog Press, is out now. And I had the privilege of going to the launch for it on Zoom last night, which was great fun. Sarah, we obviously couldn't really chat last night, so I'm very happy that we can have a conversation today. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Yes, I'm sort of having a bit of a come down after the launch last night.
Yes, I was going to say you must be feeling great because there was a good turnout. There were a few people there.
Decompressing at the moment, which is really nice. Enjoying the moment rather than stressing about it.
Yeah, it's very well deserved, especially because no matter how excited you are before one of those things, there's still the nerves and the who's going to turn up and will they get the right link. So once it's
yeah, and will I forget how to speak and block my words? Yeah,
it was really great. And were you going to always do it on Zoom? Had you started planning it at all before?
Well, I hadn't really planned anything, but it would have been in a sort of real life setting had COVID not come along and ruined everything for us. But it's actually, I don't know, I think I might have improved it by going on Zoom because I could do more. So I had Lloyd coming in and doing a few songs, and then yes, all the chit chat in the amazing Taliston house, and I think possibly it was a good thing in the end, though I would still like to do actual readings with actual people. I also had an idea before we sort of doubled down on lockdown of going for a little walk in the forest nearby. I've got woods near me, so I thought that might be fun to take a few torches and just sort of take people through the woods and read them scary stories. But and Rule of Six came in, and that was out the window.
To be fair, I think I would have hard passed if we had to walk through a scary wood. So I'm relieved it was on Zoom. And tell me a little bit more about the house itself and how you know the people or know the house.
Oh, yes. We're talking about Taliston House and Gardens in Essex. And it is a project of John Tarrow, who I actually met, first of all, when he was running a writing group. And coincidentally, he was setting his group up at the same time that I was looking for a writing group to help me with poetry and short stories and things like that. And I was looking at my local one and looked at a picture of all these grey-haired women in anoraks showing themselves. And I think, oh, really, that's not for me. And then I discovered this bonkers house, and they were doing a writing group, and I thought, no, that is for me. I'm going to meet some really good people there. And I did. And I've since become very good friends with John and his husband, Marcus, who own and run the place. And I even got involved in some of the later construction work. It was still 5 years off being finished when I first went there. So, yes, it's blood, sweat, and a little bit of knuckle scrapings in that house of mine.
Yeah, well, it looked suitably scary, but also lovely. And
yes.
Are you still in that right?
No, that only lasted a couple of years because he then had to concentrate on getting the house finished because he'd given himself a target date and he was determined to finish the house by then. So that kind of folded, and we've mostly gone our separate ways, but a lot of us are still in touch, and a lot of us are now published. So
That's
a really good writers group to join.
I'm fascinated to hear a little bit more about what your thoughts are on writers groups, because I know kind of the ones that I've been briefly in have always been really helpful in just getting people writing. A lot of the time, just having a couple more people that you're responsible to.
Yes,
it gets you
exactly.
down.
Exactly. So even if you're not set kind of homework, you will be more productive as a result of meeting people on a regular basis, and so it's a really good discipline to join a writers group. And in fact, with a couple of friends, we're in our own informal writers group at the moment, and that's extremely supportive and friendly. And so, we'll have a coffee and a bit of a gossip, and then sometimes we'll actually get round to talking about writing. But then sometimes we're really disciplined, and we'll have writing half hours. So we'll set a timer and say, right, in 30 minutes, the timer will go off. We've got 30 minutes to sit and scribble, and it's amazingly productive. It really is, because it forces you to only think about writing. So when I'm at home on my own, trying to put together another ghost story, it's like, I'll just check on Facebook first, or just do a little bit of hoovering, which is my normal thing. So the house is always cleaner when I sit down to write. So so doing the timing thing is amazingly productive, and also joining a group and surrounding yourself by supportive people. Because when I was a lot younger, I went to a writing group that was full of egos, and and I was young and a little bit shy, and I really didn't enjoy it, and that put me off for years of sort of going back to one. But as soon as you find one that's supportive and fun, and with people that you get on with, you can't beat it.
And people whose opinions you trust. So
yes,
if they tell you
absolutely.
fixing, you believe them.
Yes. That's the other thing. That so it's the quality of criticism as well. So it's all very well to read out something and people will say, "Oh, that's lovely." So you can't do anything with that, and it's never going to be perfect. But especially, when you're sort of together, you do exercises and scribble something, and there's always something you can improve. So you need people to say, you're on the right lines, but have a look at this, or you can just put commas in different places. It's always helpful, and it always makes it better.
Yeah, well, I think that I think that sounds like something that all people who want to be writers should consider doing, and just joining a group, and a fun one, and getting themselves tasks. And
yes, and if there isn't a group already around, get together with people that also want to write, and do it yourself.
Yeah. Well, so it seems like you're writing constantly. Is your day job involves writing? Is that right?
Yes. I'm a copywriter in a digital marketing agency, so I write all day, every day. So whether that's blogs for clients or website pages, normally that's the sort of main thing. But it's a good discipline again, because I'm doing it again, and it helps you improve.
And do you find that you have to separate work writing and your creative writing, or do they kind of blend into each other?
No, they don't blend into each other, because one is commercial, so it's marketing, and you're marketing a product or a service on behalf of somebody else. Whereas the poetry, it's all springing from my imagination, and I don't have rules about writing it. I can just do what I like, and so no, they don't actually cross over, and which is good, I suppose, especially for my work and start talking about ghost clients or something like that. I don't think that will go down very well.
Yeah. And what got you writing ghost stories? Has that always been your creative outlet, ghosts?
Well, no, not at all. It's only a recent thing. I do like reading a good old-fashioned ghost story, the sort of Victorian ghost story type thing. No, I don't like horror. This is because people know I like ghosts, but they don't appreciate that that's not horror, and I don't do horror. But I was reading. I was reading M.R. James one day a few years ago, and I loved the story, but I spent most of my time picking apart his really complex paragraphs. And sort of there were about 3 ideas in each sentence that you have. That I found myself going back and trying to work out who was doing what, and it sort of spoiled my enjoyment of a really good story. So I thought, well, maybe I can do better. I didn't, but so I wrote some short ghost stories that were in the Victorian creepy, horripilating kind of thing, and set them in the modern world. And yeah, I really enjoyed that, but then didn't do anything with them, and they went back in the cupboard. And I then became, a few years later, I became more interested in poetry. So I've been writing poetry for a few years, and a couple of years ago I was just messing about and I thought of the ghost stories, and I thought, well, I'll see what happens. Just write a tiny little ghost tale, but as a poem, and that worked, and I enjoyed it, and people seemed to like it. So I wrote some more, and people liked those as well. So I wrote more. And then eventually I entered a competition with Hedgehog Press, where you enter a few poems, and the shortlisted poems get put to the, they call it the Cult of the Shiny Hog. So it's a membership thing. But I kind of liked being a member of the Cult of the Shiny Hawk. It sounded good. Yeah. So the shortlisted poems, the poets in the competition I entered were put out to members of the cult to vote on, and mine were voted the winner. So the prize was to get it published as a pamphlet.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what's the process been like with Hedgehog Poetry Press? Is it kind of, did you just submit them all, and were there lots of edits or?
Not many edits. There were a few, but I do use my informal writing group. My friend, they all saw it first, and a very good friend of mine is also a creative writing tutor, which is a very, very useful person to know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I got a lot of comments from her as well. So I've got a really good support network in that respect. And so, yes, so there were edits, but Mark from Hedgehog Press didn't have to do that many, which is good. Makes me look better, and it's all my friends. Yeah.
Saves them time, makes you look good. Everyone looks good. What I really loved about the poems, I think you said they're either kind of small stories or poems. It kind of can be both a kind of microfiction, flash fiction, and they can also be. Do you think brevity is important to you when you're writing ghost stories? Because I think that a lot of what comes with getting a fright, is that momentary scare, and then it being finished. And I thought that reflected really well in your poems because of that burst of energy, and then
yes, because when you read a ghost story, traditional ghost story, everything adds up to the ending, and it's the ending that's the really creepy, scary thing. So what the poems have done, I suppose, is just chop out all the explanation, all the build up to it. But it's also because real life ghost stories. So when people are reporting when they've seen a ghost, it's always just a tiny little moment in time. So it's just somebody walking across the room or floating up the stairs or something very small. They never it's not like the movies where they're always hanging around and having a chat. It's just very tiny moments in time, which also lends it to microfiction or poetry. Yeah, I think my poems are they could be called flash fiction, but they're in the poetic form. Just so all you get is the little shiver of creepiness, and then you can move on to the next one.
Yeah, that's a great description. They are like little shivers. What is it that you think attracts people to ghost stories? Because I think often people, like you say, conflate scary movies and ghost stories, because ghosts in themselves aren't actually harmful necessarily. They're passing, they're troubled. They're usually emblematic of people being unable to go to the next phase of their lives, but they're not inherently malicious like so often they're depicted in scary movies or in that kind of thing. And I think you've kind of balanced that really well in that they're just not living. They're not necessarily harmful.
Yeah.
Why do you think that people have kind of started associating them with being these scary creatures?
I don't know. I think because we all like to have to be scared, but in a safe way. So it's a bit like a fairground ride. In that it feels scary, but it's absolutely safe. But so talking about some spooky thing that might come to you in the middle of the night, but it's okay if you put the duvet over your head, that makes it go away. It's kind of like giving us that little thrill, but in the complete safety of your own home and your own head. We like the adrenaline. I'm sure evolutionary psychologist could give you a whole load of explanation about the fact that we're hardwired to have those kind of scares, because it could actually keep us alive if we keep on our toes. And so it's something to do with having had that years and years ago, but now we kind of do it to ourselves with stories and actions, throwing ourselves off zip wires and stuff like that.
There's that fine line as well between being scared and humor, that kind of when you get a big fright and then you laugh immediately afterwards because you realize that actually it was a shadow, or things like that. Or how funny people find giving people frights.
Yes. Well, yes. Some people find it hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely. And so your stories in particular, which was your favorite to write?
I liked the initial ones that I did because they sort of sprang fully formed. So they were more inspired. So I got a little thought in my head, and then I just thought about it and worked on it, and then put it down on paper, and that was very satisfying. But also some of the later ones and some that I've been writing since have been more of a process of deliberate creation. So I've done some research and sort of look on the websites for scary stories and encounters and what have you, and then create something around that, so it's not been so inspired. And I actually enjoy those as well, because it's more of a creation thing. I'm more aware of the creative process, and I tend to use the thesaurus a lot more as well with those. But no, I think the earlier ones, like the one I read called The Astronaut, where he's stuck on his asteroid with his old body and sort of lost the sense of time and humanity. And that was one of the ones that I wanted to do something about space, and then that sort of sprang into my head, almost fully formed, without really thinking about it much. So I'm really pleased with that one.
I mean, I suppose you have your a copy on you, and you could read us a couple. Would you be okay?
Oh yes, of course. Yes.
And I've made notes of my favorite ones, but I feel like you're allowed to read your favorite ones.
I might make you read yours.
I loved the story behind, because I enjoyed the poem in itself, but last night when you told the story behind the mouse stick.
Oh yes.
So if you'd read that and give the audience a little of the history behind it, I would love that.
Here we are. Right. The Astronaut. For hundreds of years, he has patrolled his lonely asteroid, travelling further into the stars than mankind ever dreamt. There are no days, no nights, just an ever-changing sky to chart the time. Sporadically, he returns to the site of his crash. Numbed by time, the scattered debris has lost its power over him. When he looks at his body, preserved as new in the vacuum of space, it is out of curiosity rather than the taunting agony that first haunted him. Sometimes he even lies within his unchanging self, trying to remember what it was like to be alive.
And I also just love that you've managed to write a ghost story in space. I think that's
well, that's one place I really want to go to. So, well, at some point, people are going to start dying in space because we're in space so much. So, so why shouldn't ghosts be in space?
Yeah. It's not like there's any rule about where ghosts.
Exactly. They may already be out there, but we don't know.
Right. So would you read us the mouse stick one and give
yes
the little history?
Yes, because it's one of my bugbears, animal testing on cosmetics. And I read a report that Avon and also MAC Cosmetics, I think, they were talking about starting testing on animals again after a lot of years of campaigning, and the European Parliament banned it, and now they're back on the trail. And so that incensed me enough to write a poem called Mouse Stick. After complimenting her customer's lovely home, she takes the lipstick from her samples box. This season's colour, she explains, twisting the tube to reveal a dark plum purple hue. She places it on the coffee table, afraid to look in case it appears again, but her eyes drawn all the same. And there it is. Curled around the cosmetic, the small white mouse writhes in pain. Dark bubbles foam from its mouth, but its blood is not red, rather a dark plum purple hue. The customer picks up the mouse stick, eagerly lifting it to her pouting kiss, then smears her lips with its ruthless froth.
Thank you. My request.
Yeah.
And do you often find that your prompted in the same way as you described there, kind of by a story you hear or something?
Yes, yes. Yes, because I've been on local ghost walks, and a few of the stories I've heard have prompted me to write something about it. So the one about the guy who died at the railway station but ended up back at work, which is now the job centre. That at the time I wasn't even writing ghost poems at the time that I did this ghost walk, but it struck me as really bad luck for the poor guy. he not only has to haunt his old work, but it's also now a job centre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Double whammy of a depressing situation.
That was an easy one to be inspired by. So yes, and little things. So sometimes I'll just see something that sparks an idea. The local museum. I was showing a friend the local museum, and there are some really creepy dolls in there. So that was, I imagine them at night, all sort of twisting their heads towards each other and so I wrote one about that. It's not in this book, but it will hopefully be in my next book.
So, and have you started a next book?
I have, yes. I was furloughed earlier this year, so I made use of the time and I quite prolific with my poems, so that was very good for me. I know a lot of people had a hard time in furlough, but I was very pleased by the output that I managed. So yes, hopefully at some point in the future there'll be another one and another launch, hopefully with actual real people.
Yes. That'll be great. Well, it's been so great chatting to you today, and I'm so glad we got to kind of get a little more depth out of some of the questions I was thinking about at the launch last night. And thank you to our audience for joining us today. We implore you to like, subscribe, all those good things. Also for Sarah's various accounts. I think Ghost Walks has its own Twitter account. Is that right?
Yes, own Twitter and own Facebook account.
Sarah's Ghost.
Yes. So yeah,
be sure to go and follow those things and get a copy of the book. You can get a signed copy from Sarah. That I'm right in thinking that
you are. Yes, all the details are on the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Sarah's Ghost.
Well, there you go. I encourage everyone to go and do that and share this. And there it is. I should have my copy. We could have them.
Oh yes,
hidden somewhere on my bookshelf. Thank you so much, and see you all again soon. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.